Hello everyone, welcome back. We are continuing with the debt part of our syllabus. We are continuing with the debt part of fiscal policy, and we saw a lot of new concepts in the last lecture. So we'll quickly revise those new concepts one. So we talked about debt and the key difference between fiscal deficit. है ना? So debt is what? Debt is the total pool of your loans or borrowings which you have taken. Fiscal deficit is the current year's borrowings or current year's loans which you have taken. Yes or no? So that fills into the debt. We saw three types of funds or three types of accounts which government has. What was the first one? Consolidated Fund of India, 266. What was the second one? Public Account of India, again 266. What is the third one? Contingency Fund of India, which is 267. Earlier, Contingency Fund of India had 500 crores, then it was increased to 30,000 crores. Now, I don't know whether it has received presidential assent or not, but yes, it is definitely increased to 30,000. Whether it is formalized or whether it is brought into effect or not, that I am not so sure of. We spoke about types of debt. What are the types of debt? It can be divided into a lot of types. One is public debt or government debt. So what is the difference between public debt and government debt? Government debt includes central government, state government debt, be it internal, be it external. Okay? Public debt is debt which is taken excluding the public account of India and the other liabilities. Remember, I told you borrowings is the public debt. Borrowings can be internal, borrowings can be external. When we talk about external debt, what do we talk about? External debt of government as well as external debt of private individuals. Yes or no? When we talk about private debt, what do we talk about? Private debt, private players internal debt and private players external debt. Okay? So please keep this in mind that it is nothing but a this thing matrix: private, government, internal, external. है ना? So when we talk about internal debt, it is both private government ka internal. When we talk about government debt, it is both internal external of government. Okay? We were talking about external debt. Very important question we had asked in the last lecture. We ended on the last lecture on a question that why doesn't government prefer external debt? Why doesn't government prefer external debt? We talked about the largest aspect of external debt. What was the largest aspect? It was external commercial borrowing. Yes or no? Remember, we had written in pink external commercial borrowing. Now this external commercial borrowing, when we talk about, this is nothing but external borrowings which is taken by commercial parties or corporate parties or private parties. Yes or no? This is the biggest one. Now always remember, external debt is denominated in which currency? It is denominated in foreign currency. Yes or no? When we talk about internal debt, when we talk about internal debt, it is denominated in rupees. Do you agree with this? Yes or no? Now, very important, the question which we asked was, why doesn't government prefer this but government prefers this? The reason being, sometimes it is cheaper, that is one reason. Sometimes it is cheaper to borrow in India than compared to borrow outside India. Sometimes it is expensive, sometimes it is cheaper. Okay? The main reason is, see, I'll give you an example and then you will understand the reason. You borrow 100 rupees. Okay? You borrow 100 rupees. How much do you have to repay? 100 rupees plus interest. Yes or no? You borrow 100 rupees, you have to repay 100 rupees plus interest. You borrowed within India. Second day, you went to America, you borrowed $1. Just $1 you borrowed. Okay? When you borrowed $1, $1 was 72 rupees. So when you go to America, you borrow $1. The bank will give you $1 ka note. Yes or no? You will come to India. Will that $1 work in India? No, it will not work. You have to convert it into rupees. Yes or no? This is basic. This is understood. So when you convert it into rupees, how many rupees you will get? You will get 72 rupees because today's rate is $1 is 72 rupees. Yes or no? How much do you have to repay? Do you have to repay 72 rupees plus interest or do you have to repay $1 plus interest? Think and tell me. How much do you have to repay? Is it 72 rupees plus interest or $1 plus interest? Bank of America is not concerned with rupees. Bank of America will say, "Mereko $1 chahiye. I need $1." Yes or no? Agreed? Bank of America will say, "I need $1." So you will have to repay $1. Let's say tomorrow the dollar rate becomes 75 rupees. You have to repay $1. You have to go and repay $1. What will you do? You will go to bank in India. You will ask, I need $1. Bank will ask, how much? 72 rupees from you or 75 rupees from you? Think and tell. You want $1 from the bank because you want to repay it to Bank of America. See, if you are not able to conceptualize it, then please look at it here. This is India and this is USA. Okay. Here there is a Bank of America. Here there is State Bank of India. Right? You went to America. You borrowed $1. You came to India. You went to SBI. You said ki I need rupees for my dollars. Who changes dollar rupee? Money changer or a bank also. So you went to SBI. SBI gave you the current rate of that day, which is 72 rupees. Okay. When you want to repay, the rate changed. When you want to repay, the rate changed to 75 rupees. So now you want to repay $1 back to Bank of America because your loan is over. You have to repay $1 back. Bank of America doesn't care about 70 to 75. Bank of America will say, मेरे को $1 चाहिए. I need $1. ठीक है? You go to SBI and you give SBI 72 rupees. Sir, please give me $1. I will take it to America and I will repay. SBI will say, sir, but 72 rupees was the rate of that day. Today the rate of dollar is 75 rupees. So you will have to shell out 3 rupees extra. Yes or no? So now you will have to give SBI 75 rupees. You will have to give SBI 75 rupees now. And then 75 rupees ke badle you will get $1 and then you will go to America and you will repay $1. Bank of America is happy. SBI is happy. You are not happy. Why? Because you borrowed 72 rupees. You are repaying 75 rupees. Interest alag se. Interest is some different story altogether. Do you agree with this? ठीक है? Do you realize that you borrowed $1, you got 72 rupees, but when you repaid $1, you had to pay 75 rupees. So do you think there is a risk in this? Right? The risk will only happen when this goes to 75. Tomorrow if this goes to 70, you will have to repay less because SBI will ask, you will give 72 rupees and SBI will say, take this 2 rupees back because today's rate is 70 rupees. You will get $1 in 70, you will go to America and you will give him $1. Yes or no? Is it simple? So, but there is a risk. The point is this might go to 70 also and this might go to 75 also. So there is a risk now. Yes or no? What is the risk? The risk of exchange rate going adversely in your position. Do you agree with this? This risk is the sole reason why government doesn't prefer external debt. Government prefer rupees. Government says, I will borrow in rupees, I will repay in rupees. I don't want unnecessary headache. There is an upside risk also, no doubt. But you only tell me what is the trend. Does the rupee slide over time or gain? It slides. So last year it might be in 60s, to this year it is in 70s. So 72 to 71 will happen, then again 73 will happen. But overall it normally slides. Now how does it slide and what is the mechanics behind it? That we'll see in balance of payment chapter. Okay. So, but do you agree there is a risk here? Because Bank of America will ask only for $1. It doesn't care 72 or 75 or 70. Okay? This risk, always remember, this risk due to exchange rate fluctuations, why is this risk? Because you borrowed in one currency and you are using it in other currency. Yes or no? If you had stayed in America, then what had happened? $1 you took, you used $1 you repay also. You earn in America dollars, you repay in American dollars. No problem. This risk is only happening when the currency in which you took loan and the currency in which you are using the money is different. So this risk is called as currency risk. This risk is called as currency risk. There are a lot of risks in financial transactions: market risk, interest rate risk, XYZ risk, currency risk. This risk is known as currency risk. When you are playing between currencies, it is known as currency risk. You know, similar risk is faced by American people when they borrow from Indian banks. Because they will borrow 1 lakh rupees, they will get converted into dollars, but Indian bank will demand 1 lakh rupees plus interest. And then what will be the dollar rate on the repayment day? Uske hisab se they will have to give dollars to get rupees and repay the Indian banks. So it is ulta, it works both ways. Okay? This risk is currency risk. Do you understand what is currency risk? Is it fairly clear what is currency risk? It is very important to understand this risk. Yes or no? ठीक है? External risk, internal risk. Sorry, external debt, internal debt, currency risk. So true or false, or fill in the blanks. Currency risk is present when you take internal debt. True or false? Currency risk is present when you take internal debt. No. Currency risk is present when you take external debt. Yes or no? Solution क्या है इसका? What is the solution? अच्छा, who is bearing the risk? Is Bank of America bearing the risk or you are bearing the risk here? We are bearing the risk. Who are we? Borrower or lender? We are the borrower. So in currency risk, the risk is with the borrower. Always remember this. In currency risk, the risk is with the borrower. Lender doesn't care, na? Lender says ki, "Arey, give me $1 back. I am very happy with it." Okay? Is it cool? Is it understood? So now the problem arises ki how to minimize this risk. How to minimize this? Okay? Tomorrow, if Bank of America says, don't give me $1, but give me 72 rupees. Let's say Bank of America fell on its head and it lost its memory. Bank of America says, give me 72 rupees. Are you happy with it? Yes, because you are giving the same amount which you took from the bank. Yes or no? Similarly, let's imagine government is going outside India to borrow and government is asking ki who is willing to give me money. Bank of America says, I will give in dollars, you have to repay in dollars. Government will say, no, this has a lot of currency risk. The government goes to Japan, Japanese bank says ki, I will give you yen, but you have to repay in rupees only. Don't worry about exchange rate. Is the government happy now? Yes, because government does not have currency risk. Yes or no? Because the lender has agreed to borrow, lender has agreed to lend and to get it back in rupees only, right? So can I say currency risk has been shifted from the borrower to the lender? How has it shifted? Because now it is his risk. He is getting rupees back. Okay? Again, let us take another example. Same example. Bank of America, SBI, and this is you. Okay? You go to Bank of America. Bank of America says, how much do you want? You say, I need $1. So Bank of America says, I will give you $1 worth of rupee equivalent. Okay? So he gives you 72 rupees. And Bank of America says, repay me 72 rupees only. Don't worry about it. You come here. Okay? You come here, you spend 72 rupees. You don't need SBI now because you have borrowed in rupees only. You have got money in rupees. Why you need SBI? Okay? You use the money here. When the repayment date comes, Bank of America, you call Bank of America and you ask whether you want dollars or rupees. Bank of America says, I want rupees. For some purpose, I want rupees. Let's say the rate goes to 75. Okay? But you have to pay only 72 rupees, na? Because Bank of America wants in rupees whatever was paid. So you happily go there and you pay rupees 72. Okay? Now think from Bank of America's angle for a while. To lend you 72 rupees, Tabhi Bank of America in its mind said, okay, $1 is 72, I am lending him 72 rupees, which means I am lending him $1 in the mind. When you repay 72 rupees, when the rate is 75 now, the rate is 75, but you are repaying 72 rupees. Bank of America is receiving 72 rupees, but it will not get $1 worth of goods, na? Because now the rate has changed to 75 rupees. Will it get more than $1 or less than $1? It will get less than $1 because now $1 is 75 rupees. So 72 rupees, let's say, is $0.8. Loss kiska hai? Who is bearing the loss? Bank of America is bearing the loss. Who is Bank of America in this transaction? Lender or borrower? Lender. The role is not changing, but I am shifting currency risk from the borrower's side to the lender's side. Okay? Here I am borrowing in rupees only and spending in rupees and repaying in rupees only. Yes or no? It is his headache to convert in dollars and to buy something or not, right? But in the previous transaction, I was borrowing in dollars and spending in rupees and so on. And in this case, I am borrowing in rupees only and spending in rupees only. Yes or no? So in the first scenario, the currency lies with dash. In second scenario, the currency lies with dash. Tell me. In the first scenario, currency lies with dash. What do you think? In the first scenario, the currency lies with the lender or the borrower? In the first scenario, the currency risk lies with the borrower. In the second scenario, the currency lies with the lender. Okay? Now, why will he borrow? Why will he take currency risk? Think from his angle. Why will he take currency risk? Why does anyone take any risk in any business? To attract customers? Tomorrow, if Bank of America holds up a board saying ki I am willing to bear currency risk, do you think governments will run to him and take loan from him? Yes. Because currency risk is shifted, yes or no? you see a shop which is showing 60% off, 60% discount, or you can return the product in 30 days. You are happy, you take it, you use it. If not good, you can return it. Yes or no? Similarly, to attract customers, see, banking is also a business. Government of India is a customer of Bank of America. Okay? So Bank of America, to expand its business to, there are various banks in America, to JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, all of these. So to HSBC and all. So to go ahead of the competition, nobody was ready to ready to bear currency risk, but Bank of America said, in our example, I will be ready to borrow currency, to bear currency risk. Okay? It will improve its business, yes or no? Japanese government will come to borrow, Pakistani government will come to borrow, Indian government will come to borrow, and it will do a lot of good business. No doubt with a risk, but it will do good business. Similar thing was noticed by World Bank. You know World Bank? World Bank is sitting on top of the world. It is the bank of the world. We'll speak about World Bank in our World Bank series lecture. So World Bank also saw that the problem with raising funds of any country, not only India, the problem with raising funds from outside India is currency risk. This is the main problem, yes or no? So World Bank tried to bring a solution. What did World Bank do? World Bank found similar people who are willing to bear currency risk to lend to countries who are not willing to bear currency risk. Does it make any sense? World Bank tried to find lenders who are willing to bear currency risk, and World Bank connected them with those countries who are not willing to take currency risk. Samjha na? So Indian government does not prefer external debt because it is not willing to take currency risk. But tomorrow if World Bank calls Indian government and says ki a bank in Russia is willing to take currency risk, would you be interested? Indian government will say yes, because currency risk nahi hai, right? That is what World Bank did. So World Bank is a big group. It is a group of 5 institutions. One of them is known as International Financial Corporation, IFC. Don't write this down now. One of the group is International Financial Corporation of the World Bank Group. Okay, it is known as IFC. It looks after this money raising. And bear in mind, we are not only talking about government here. We started with government, but even private corporations might not be willing to take currency risk. Yes or no? HDFC is not willing to take currency risk. Will it borrow from outside India or within India? It will borrow from within India. But if World Bank calls HDFC and says ki, I have found you a lender who is willing to take currency risk, you don't have to take. HDFC will be happy. Yes or no? So, but why is World Bank doing this? Because World Bank wants other countries to have financial flows to each other. Okay? If you are able to borrow more and more money, if you are able to easily access money, you will be able to develop your country further. If Indian government gets external debt without currency risk, it can significantly bridge its fiscal deficit from outside India, prevent crowding out in India, as well as meet its expenditure targets. Yes or no? Okay? So IFC came up with a paper. IFC came up with a paper. क्या लिखा होगा उसमें? What do you think is written in this? IFC came up with a paper. What do you think is written in this? It is written. Achha, we know from our yesterday's discussion who gives the paper. If government wants to borrow money from some people, it will sign the paper and it will give it to you. Remember we covered this in bonds. Similarly, IFC printed a paper which says that whoever is the borrower, okay, whoever is the borrower is not willing to take currency risk, currency risk has to be taken by lender and sign. Okay? This is the paper which IFC released. Now, who gives the paper, borrower or lender? Who gives the paper? Sign karke who gives the paper? Borrower. Because if I am borrowing from my friend, he will demand paper from me, I will sign it and I will give it. Take my sign that I have taken money from you, I will repay it. So IFC said, whoever wants to borrow without currency risk, please give this paper to whoever is willing to lend with currency risk. Samjha? IFC just gave a blank paper, uspe format and everything was written, and said ki write the borrower name here, write the lender name here, sign here. Whoever wants to borrow without currency risk from outside the country in other currency will give this paper to whoever wants to lend with currency risk, and then you guys decide कि क्या करना है, how is to be done. Agreed? ठीक है? This particular paper, let's say today HDFC wakes up and HDFC knows about this. HDFC says we can borrow from outside India. ठीक है? HDFC will write its name here. I am borrower. I am HDFC. ठीक है? Let's say tomorrow JP Morgan is willing to lend with currency risk. You know, JP Morgan is willing to take the currency risk. It will write the name of lender here, JP Morgan. It will sign HDFC. ठीक है? It will enter the amount XYZ and it will give this paper to whom? To JP Morgan. Yes or no? JP Morgan will transfer the funds to HDFC. Yes or no? HDFC, who has taken a loan here? HDFC or JP Morgan? Who has taken a loan? HDFC has taken a loan. Is it a dollar loan or a rupee loan? It is a rupee loan. Why? It is a rupee loan now. Why? Because JP Morgan is bearing the currency risk. So the currency has to be which is being used by HDFC. Okay? And who is bearing the currency risk? JP Morgan is bearing the currency risk. This particular paper, do we know we call it as bond? I told you yesterday only similar paper is known as bond. In government area it is called as a treasury bill. Okay? So this particular paper which is issued, just look at what just hear what I'm hearing. This particular paper which is issued by Indian entities, yes or no? Because this has to be issued by Indian entities because they are borrowing from outside India. So this particular paper which is issued by Indian entities, be it government, be it private, yes or no? Government or private. This particular paper which is issued by Indian entities, be it government or private, to some entity outside India who is willing to take currency risk and who is willing to give loan in rupees, yes or no? Who is willing to give loan in rupees is known as Masala Bond. Masala. It is known as Masala Bond. This is a bond only, but just because it is issued outside India and it is in rupee terms, it is called as Masala Bond. Masala Bonds. It was issued by International Financial Corporation. The format was issued by International Financial Corporation, and then every corporate was encouraged to do this. So chalo, now tell me, who issues Masala Bonds? Who of the following can issue Masala Bonds? Okay? Multiple choice. Who of the following can issue Masala Bonds? JP Morgan of USA, HDFC of India, Reliance of India, Steel Authority of India, which is a PSU. Steel Authority of India is a public sector undertaking. It is controlled by the government of India, or Russian Investment Bank, which is there in Russia. Who of the following can issue Masala Bonds? What do you think? Indian entities can issue Masala Bonds. Outside India, they cannot issue Masala Bonds because this is denominated in rupees. Always remember. Now the question is, Reliance can issue Masala Bonds? Yes. HDFC can issue? Yes. Can PSUs issue Masala Bonds? Can government entities issue Masala Bonds? Can companies which are under the control of government? Remember we discussed about government companies during disinvestment. Can they issue Masala Bonds? Yes or no? Yes. They can also issue Masala Bonds. There is no differentiation between debt and there is no differentiation between private, debt of private and debt of public when it comes to external borrowings. Remember? So the first ever Masala Bond was issued by a company, by a government company called as NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation. Okay? It was indeed issued by a PSU. It was issued by a public sector undertaking. Then HDFC also issued Masala Bonds, and now various entities issue Masala Bonds. Chalo, now apply your knowledge of Masala Bond and answer. This is a very interesting question which I want to ask you. Apply your knowledge and answer. If I tell you, apply your knowledge and answer. A bond is called as a samurai bond. Do you know samurais? They have swords and all. A bond, you came to know that in the global market there is a bond which is being floated which is called as a samurai bond. What do you think? Entities of which country would have issued it? Japan. Okay? So samurai bonds are issued by companies, both government and private, in Japan to raise loans in Japanese yen from other countries or from outside Japan who are willing to buy currency, who are willing to take currency risk. Yes or no? Samurai bonds, Masala bonds. ठीक है. There are Momo bonds also, Momos. There are Momo bonds also. They are of Nepal. ठीक है. Similarly, there are different bonds of different countries with respect to their speciality. So if we speak about Masala bonds, immediately we should come to know that these are issued by Indian entities who are not willing to take currency risk, which means that the loan is in rupees, which means that the borrowing is in rupees. They are borrowing, and lenders are outside India who are lending in rupees, but the lenders are willing to take currency risk. Samjha? Now the question is, why will lenders take currency risk? Because I told you currency can move both ways. It can go 72 to 70 also, 75 also. So that is why they take, they lend or they lend money to Indian entities. Samjha? ठीक है. Masala bonds are denominated in what currency? What do you think? Masala bonds are denominated in what currency? Indian rupees, always. ठीक है. If I tell you Bank of America has purchased, now if I tell you Bank of America has purchased Masala bonds worth rupees 50 crores, what does it mean? What does it mean? Bank of America has purchased a Masala bond worth 50 crores. What does it mean? It means Bank of America has given 50 crores to an Indian entity who has issued that Masala bond. Yes or no? So that Indian entity is the borrower of 50 crore rupees. Bank of America is the lender of 50 crores or purchaser of 50 crores worth of Masala bonds. And after, let's say, 10 years, that Bank of America will go to the borrower again and will give that Masala bond to him and will take the money back. Yes or no? But it will take the money back in rupees. It had issued money in rupees because it is a Masala bond. If it was a normal bond, it would have been dollars. Currency risk would have been with the borrower. If it is in rupees, currency risk is with the lender. So when we say, let's say SBI has purchased government bonds worth 50 lakhs. SBI has purchased government bonds worth 50 lakhs. What does it mean? What does it mean? SBI has purchased government bonds worth rupees 50 lakhs. What does it mean? It means SBI has lent 50 lakh rupees to the government. Government has signed 50 lakhs worth of papers. I will give you back and given to the SBI. So the word purchase should not confuse you in this case. So SBI has purchased 50 lakh worth of government bonds means SBI has lent 50 lakhs to the government and government has given the papers worth 50 lakhs. So after 10, 15, 20 years, SBI will give them back and it will get the money back from the government. Yes or no? So whenever we speak, RBI is purchasing 12 trillion rupees, RBI is purchasing 1.2 trillion worth of bonds. What does it mean? RBI is lending money to the government and it is purchasing bonds. What do I mean when I say that I have purchased a bond worth rupees 100 issued by Reliance? It means I have lent 100 rupees to Reliance. Yes or no? Do you understand this? Similar thing happens at a global level. Similar things happens internally also. Okay? This is the reason why governments prefer internal debt, because it is always free of currency risk. समझा? And see, notice that currency risk का जो negative advantage है, which is a disadvantage, कि that 72 का 75 is happening, फालतू में you are giving 3 rupees, na? That is not constructive. That is just because of exchange rate movement. So if that 72 you would have taken from within India, you would have been able to repay only 72, and that 3 rupees would have been saved. So that is the reason why we prefer, or why anyone prefers this thing, internal debt. Right? Now, few questions I need to ask you. First question, which do you think is riskier, internal debt or external debt? External debt is riskier, okay? So good thing about India's government policy, India's debt policy rather, good thing about India's debt management is that majorly government, I am talking about government, majorly government debt is internal, majorly government debt is internal. So it's a good thing because external debt. What do you think? In external debt, debt quoted in dollars is riskier or debt quoted in other currencies is riskier? What do you think? So you have two kinds of debt. One is in dollars, one is in some other currency, any other currency which you like. Which is more riskier, debt quoted in dollars or debt quoted or purchased in dollars or debt taken in other currencies? Other currencies is riskier because dollar is a stable currency. Dollar is used by almost all countries of the world. Dollar is a global currency. Okay? So anything which is quoted in dollars is always safer because if someone does not purchase it, you will find some other buyer for that because dollar is accepted almost everywhere. So debt quoted in other currencies is riskier. Again, good thing by Indian debt management, majority of the debt is in dollar terms, not in other currency. Majority. There are other currency also. Third thing, what do you think is more riskier? Short-term debt or long-term debt? What do I mean by short-term and long-term? Debt which you have to repay in 2 years or debt which you have to repay in 20 years. What do you think is more riskier? From a finance angle, from an economics angle, I am asking, what do you think is more riskier? Debt which you have to repay in 2 years or debt which you have to repay in 20 years? Think and tell. This is a thinker. Think and tell. Think and tell. Is short term, in our example, short term is 2 years. Short term can be next month also. Short term can be 6 months also. So what do you think? Short term debt is riskier or long term debt is riskier? Let me give you an example. This is year 0. This is year 10. Okay? Right? You have to repay the debt here. It is a 10-year debt. You have to repay it here. What do you think? You will have more risk now or you will have more tension in the 9th year? You will have more tension about repayment today or you will have more tension about repayment in the 9th year? You will have more tension in the 9th year because next year you have to repay. Exam hai na? 300 days are remaining for the exam. No tension. Okay? 1 month remaining for the exam. Then you know what happens. So short term is always tension. Long term, no tension. Yes or no? So long term debt is always better than short term debt. Why? Because in the 9th year it has become short term now because it is only 1 year. So there you will have to scramble for repayment. Kaise kare, how to repay the loan and everything, right? Then you scramble for revision, how to revise, what to revise. So short term is always riskier. Again, good thing about Indian debt management, majority of our loan is long term. Okay? Now, one more question I want to ask you. Is loan at a high interest riskier or loan at a low interest riskier? You are borrowing, huh? So loan at a high interest is riskier or loan at a low interest is riskier? What do you think? Loan at a high interest is riskier because every month you have to pay high interest. Okay? Again, good thing. Majority of our loan is low interest rate. Majority of our loan is low interest rate. It is not to say that this is the only thing. Majority this is there. Fancy term for low interest rate. Fancy term for discounted interest rate. Fancy term is concessional interest rate. Yes or no? Concessional interest rate बोलते हैं ना, concessional. Discount है. Sir, who gives concessional rates? World Bank gives, IMF gives. We'll cover that in World Bank and IMF chapter. So internal debt, majority India's debt is internal. Majority India's external debt is in dollar terms. Majority India's debt is long term. Majority of India's external debt is low interest concessional interest rate. Samjha? Now, what do you think is more riskier? Debt which is secured by some security or debt which is unsecured? Debt which is secured is comparatively less risky because everything is properly financed, everything is arranged, everything is known. Yes or no? So majority of our debt is sovereign debt, apna sovereign guaranteed debt. So majority of our debt is sovereign debt. These are the characteristics of government debt. Okay? This is government debt. This is not private debt. This is government debt. Government internal, government external, government debt total, government external, government debt total. Got it? Understood this? Understood what is Masala Bond? Yes or no? Right? Now, next concept. Very interesting concept. What is a bond? What is a bond? Chalo, what is a bond? A bond is issued by any company or any organization, any individual, any government who is desirous of borrowing or lending. Who issues bonds? Borrower or lender? Borrower. Borrower issues bonds. Okay? He signs and he gives it. He is issuing the bond. Okay? So those companies which are involved in green projects, which means which are involved in renewable energy, green projects, which are not involved in any polluting activity. So there are some companies which make green products, biodegradable products. There are some companies who are investing heavily. So if you have read newspaper recently, Reliance India has announced 75,000 crores worth of push in green investment. Okay? So those companies who are involved in green projects, renewable projects, who are involved in green projects, if they issue bonds, which means they are borrowing funds, yes or no? Where will they use the funds? In green projects, yes or no? So the bonds which are issued for raising funds, those funds which will be used in green projects. Okay? So if I'm issuing a bond and if I'm telling you whatever you give me, and that bond can be, bear in mind that bond can be internal also, external also, yes or no? Okay? So the bond which I am issuing, which means I want to borrow money, and if I tell you I will use it for green projects, those bonds are called as green bonds. Simple. What is the meaning of green bonds? Green bonds are those bonds wherein the funds raised or funds borrowed are utilized for green projects. Now that company might be green or not, that is a different thing. So tomorrow if Reliance issues green bonds, it means that whatever money it has raised by the issuance of these bonds are used for green purposes or green projects only. Samjha? Very simple, very easy to understand. Now chalo. Now take a guess. Take a guess. What is blue bonds? Take a guess. What will be blue bonds? Bonds which are issued to raise money to be used related to water purposes, clean water, sanitation, hygiene, beach cleanup, ocean cleanup, all of those things, water economy relating to blue bonds, right? Now tell me what are masala bonds? Funds which are raised in rupee terms from outside India are masala bonds. Bear in mind, masala bonds cannot be issued within India. Why? Because in India, anyways, you purchase or you borrow in rupees. Masala bonds are issued outside India, but these bonds can be issued outside India in India. Okay? Now, interesting thing: if green bonds are issued outside India, they are called as green bonds. If green bonds are issued within India, they are called as green bonds. If green bonds are issued outside India but with rupee terms, then they will be called as green masala bonds. Yes or no? Bas, simple. You get it. Okay? You get it? So, now, what is bad? What is bad? I'll give you two bad scenarios. You will have to tell me what is more bad. Okay? I will give you two bad scenarios. Government not able to repay loans borrowed within India. Government not able to repay loans borrowed outside India. What is bad? Government not able to repay loans within India. Think economically. Forget social obligations now. See, I told you in the initial lectures only, social is very good, but let us keep social out of our minds when we are studying economics. Think economically. What is more bad? Failure to repay interest or failure to repay borrowings taken from outside India, or failure to repay interest and borrowings within India? What is more bad? Outside India is more bad. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. There is something which we all care about, is image. Image is something we care about. You know, when we are in school, when we are in college, we think about how are we looking, what do others think of us. Sometimes we overthink, what do others think of us, what might she think about me, what will he think about me. Okay, I should have not told him this way, I should have not yelled at him, etc. etc. Image. Why do we care about image? Because we look for that person's positive views, we look for that person's help, be it emotional help, material help whenever we need, right? We especially care about good image in front of our teachers, yes or no? Because we want good marks. Okay? Similarly, Indian government cares more about its image in front, economically, in front of others outside India, because remember this, who gives this? People who are outside India. Who gives concessional interest rate loans? World Bank, IMF, all of these big organizations give concessional loans. So if our image is bad, they will not give this. If our image is bad, they will not give this. If our image is bad, they will not give this. Yes or no? Do you agree? If our image is bad, it will also affect this. Kahan gaya? Bank of America will say, see, your fundamentals are strong, but you are from India. Your country is not good. Economically, your country is very weak. I will not give you loan. So that is why image is very important, and that is why we care about image. Okay? So, do you know what is the economic measure of image? So how do you measure this image economically? Okay, there is something called as a credit rating. How do you gauge the performance of a movie or a series? How do you gauge the performance of a movie or a series? 4-star out of 5. You know, we talk about IMDb ratings. It has got 9.1 star out of 10. Yes or no? How do you gauge the performance of any cricketer? How many runs he has scored? How many wickets he has taken? Barabar hai? Similarly, how do you gauge the economic image or economic performance of any entity? Individuals, companies, countries, governments, anything. It is called as credit rating. So you give stars, you rate credit. Who does this? There are independent credit rating agencies. Film critics hote hai na? Similarly, there are independent credit rating agencies, CRA. So I'll give you some names. You might come across them in newspaper. S&P, Standard and Poor, Moody's. All these are credit rating agencies, big credit rating agencies. Have you heard of CRISIL, CRISIL? You might have heard about CRISIL, CRISIL. It is an Indian credit rating company. Okay, they rate governments, they rate individuals also. Do you know you and I, we also have a credit rating? We also have a credit rating. Okay? You might have, or if you want to know more about it, see, it doesn't form part of our this thing. You might have heard about CIBIL score, or you might have heard about ads which talk about CIBIL score. So read about this. What is CIBIL score? It is your economic image in front of lenders, your economic image in front of banks, your economic image in front of institutions from which you will borrow money. Okay? CIBIL score. So normally CIBIL score is out of 900. CIBIL score of individuals in India is out of 900. So I have a very good finance. So now tell me, if you miss your EMI payments, would it reduce your CIBIL score or increase your CIBIL score? It would reduce your CIBIL score. Now tell me, if you don't take any loan, would it reduce your CIBIL score or increase your CIBIL score? It would. If you don't take any loan, it would reduce or it would increase? It would still reduce. See, some of you might think it will increase because you are not taking any loan, but it is not that. Bear in mind, this credit rating is to show how well you take loan and you are able to repay it. If you don't even take loan, then you don't even come. You go home. Okay? When you are coming here, you show how well. I have a very good, excellent credit history. I pay my EMIs on time. So my CIBIL score out of 900, my CIBIL score is 850. Nobody goes beyond 860, 870. Nobody goes. 850 is on the higher end. So my CIBIL score is 850 out of 900. Now if I start defaulting on my EMIs, if I don't pay EMIs, then my CIBIL score will reduce. Okay? Now tomorrow when I go to a bank to ask for loan, they ask for CIBIL score. They ask how good you are. So today if I go, anyone will give me loan. Today if I go, anyone will give me loan at low interest. Okay? Don't think that bank interest rates are fixed. They are like a market only. You have to bargain. So if let's say SBI quotes 9% home loan, if I tell them, sir, my CIBIL score is 850, you will not find anyone above 830, 840, but I am 850 CIBIL score, and otherwise I will not take from you. SBI will reduce that 9 to 8.8%, 8.7%. SBI will do that. But tomorrow if I go to the bank with a CIBIL score of 720 or let's say 600 out of 900, SBI will not even quote 9%, SBI will quote me 12%. Why? Because I am not worthy. Right? So this is your CIBIL score. Coming back, every country has a credit rating. Every country has a credit rating. Now tell me, if I tell you a sentence, India's credit rating is downgraded, what do you think India's image would be? It would reduce or it will increase? It would reduce. Yes or no? Okay, very good. I give you 1 lakh rupees. I give you 1 lakh rupees, and I tell you don't spend. I tell you don't spend, but invest. Do you know the difference between spending and investing? Investing is when you park it somewhere, when you give to someone or some entity and expect returns from it or expect that money to grow. Yes or no? For example, bank fixed deposit. You keep in bank FD for 5, you will keep 100 rupees for 1 year. At the end of 1 year, you will get 105 rupees. That 5 rupees is your money has grown. You can invest in stocks, shares, you can invest in gold. Remember, people also keep their money in gold, yes or no? Because they expect that money will grow. Today gold is 47,000 rupees per 10 grams. Tomorrow it will be, let's say, 50,000 rupees. You can sell that gold and you can get 50,000. So I give you 1 lakh rupees today. I tell you invest however you want. See, that is the job of CAs, right? They advise you to invest where and all. You have a lot of options to invest, yes or no? Yes or no? Do you have a lot of options to invest? Gold, shares, stocks, bank FDs, mutual funds. So many options are there to invest. Similarly, there are global investors. There are big banks, global banks. There are kings or princes of Abu Dhabi and all of that. They have a lot of money. So they view the whole world as a market. They view the whole world as a market. If there are 180 countries in the world, then every country is a market, which means I can invest in India, or I can invest in Pakistan, or I can invest in China, or I can invest in Italy, or I can invest in Germany. So these all countries become their investors' markets. Are you getting this? So they need to decide whether to invest funds in India or not. Why will they invest funds in India? If they expect that they will get more money back after a point of time, yes or no? Similarly, we invest in gold because we expect more money back out of it. We invest in bank FD because it is safe and also we expect some interest on it. Similarly, global investors invest in a country with the hope of getting some returns. Why is Amazon investing in India? Because it wants to capture the business in India. It wants to do business in India, yes or no? So if a country has a low credit rating, do you think investment will come to India or not? It will not come to India. If tomorrow credit rating increases, more and more global investors will start pooling in fund in India. Always remember, when funds start coming to India, government's need for borrowing reduces. Yes or no? Because fund is already coming automatically to India. I don't have to borrow anything, government says. And hence credit rating is very important. Okay? Right? Now coming back to the original question, imagine if government fails to repay external debt. Now tell me whether image banaye rakhna in external debt is important or internal debt. See, internal debt mein today we know what is happening in politics and all. Even if government doesn't have a favorable image, what will we do? We'll drop the government, we'll elect someone new. Okay? But externally, if your credit rating is downgraded, now I will not use the word image and all, I will use the fancy word which is credit rating. So if India's credit rating is downgraded tomorrow, nobody will be able to lend to India. Nobody would be willing to lend to India. Yes or no? Right? So when I told you whether defaulting on internal debt is better or external debt is better, the answer is that defaulting on internal debt is better. External debt, please, it is more risky to default because it can result in a credit risk downgrade. Okay, credit rating downgrade. So which is bad? That is what I had asked you. Which is bad? External debt default or internal debt? External debt default is always bad. When India or when any country is not able to repay interest or principal on the external debt, when it doesn't have the money, it cannot repay. When it doesn't have the money, that phenomena is called as a this term is very important. This term is very, 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 very important. समझा? Yes or no? It is called as sovereign debt crisis, SDC, which means we are not able to repay loan which is denominated in foreign currency. We are not able to repay loans which we have taken from foreign parties. And if a country is facing sovereign debt crisis, which means its image is very bad in the economy, nobody will give it money, nobody will invest in India or nobody will invest in that country. Did we face sovereign debt crisis anytime during the past? Yes, we did. In 1980s, we were on the brink of collapse. Indian economy faced sovereign debt crisis in 1980s. Has any country faced sovereign debt crisis recently? There are many countries which are facing sovereign debt crisis. Greece has done, Zimbabwe has done, Venezuela has done. There are many countries which face sovereign debt crisis on a regular basis. Sir, then how to solve it? How to prevent the sovereign debt crisis? Debt management. अच्छे से manage करो. Yes or no? Independent Fiscal Council. Do you remember the recommendations of N.K. Singh Review Committee? First recommendation, Independent Fiscal Council. Don't take on debt which you cannot service. Don't take on debt which you know you will not be able to repay. Don't transfer unsustainable liabilities. Don't take on unsustainable liabilities. Sovereign debt crisis is a situation where foreign currency debt taken from foreign parties is not being repaid or government is unable to repay. बराबर है? Many countries face sovereign debt crisis. India has not faced any crisis after 1980 onwards. After 1991 reforms, we have been very resilient in our debt management. I told you, majority of our debt is long term, majority of our debt is in dollars, majority of our debt is sovereign, majority of our debt is internal. So sovereign debt crisis का probability automatically reduces. बराबर है? Yes? ठीक है? Done? Okay. What are the examples of non-debt creating capital receipts? What are the examples of non-debt creating capital receipts? What do you think are the examples, major examples of non-debt creating capital receipts? Disinvestment. ठीक है? What are we doing in disinvestment? What are we doing in disinvestment? We are selling our stake, our shares in our own companies to someone else. ठीक है? We spoke about disinvestment and strategic disinvestment. Yes or no? All of them are disinvestment only. बराबर है? Now I'll tell you something very funny, something very important, something very funny. When government borrows, does it count as debt? Yes or no? It counts as debt. Do we have limits on government borrowing? Yes, we have FRBM. Currently we have a larger limit, but overall, when things will turn to normal, we have a this thing, क्या बोलते हैं, limit 3% plus 0.5%. That is the fiscal deficit limit. Yes or no? Now I'll show you magic. I'll show you something very cool. I'll show you magic. ठीक है, this is government. It owns a PSU, public sector undertaking. Let's say it owns ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation. This is a company. Government, let's say it owns, let's say for hypothetical example, it owns 100% of ONGC. बराबर है? Which means it can direct all the decisions of ONGC. Government is the owner of ONGC. ठीक है? Very good. Now this is something which many people fail to understand, the concept which I am trying to tell you when they read books, because it is mentioned, sometimes it is not mentioned, and newspaper man keeps on coming. ठीक है? So now, and ONGC is, let's say, in the oil business. Yes or no? So ONGC will make profit. बराबर है? ONGC is in the oil business, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation. ONGC will make profit. Now this profit, who is the owner of this profit ultimately? Government. ठीक है? ONGC will give this profit back to the government. Yes or no? Because you are the owner. So please sir, take this profit, enjoy your life. Yes or no? Do you agree with this? ठीक है? Now, government also makes budget. Government also makes decision on fiscal deficit. Government also makes decisions on debt. So let's say government wants to borrow 4% of, like government wants to set 4% of fiscal deficit. Yes or no? Government wants to set 4% of fiscal deficit. Chalo, very good. Fiscal like committee members ask, why do you want 4% of this thing? Show me your expenditure. Okay? Show me your expenditure. Pay very close attention to this example. One of the, so यहाँ पे this will be nothing but your total expenses minus total revenue. Yes or no? One of it will be capital expenses. Yes or no? One of the capital expenses which government has accounted for is investing in a new oil field. ठीक है? Pay close attention to this. Do you follow अभी तक? Scene 1, Government owns ONGC, 100% of ONGC. You can say 51% also, doesn't make a difference. ONGC makes profits every year and those profits are transferred to the government because government is the owner. Simple to understand, very good. Scene 2, government is preparing budget and government decides on 4% of fiscal deficit. Okay? Out of the fiscal deficit, there is one particular component of capital expenditure which is an oil field. Okay? Which is an oil field. An oil field is worth, let's say, 50,000 crores. That constitutes, suppose that constitutes 1% fiscal deficit. तो ये जो fiscal deficit है 4%, उसमें का out of that 1% is expenditure to be incurred on oil field. ठीक है? Government gives this account. FRBM committee says कि sir, you cannot go beyond 3%. Do you agree with me? FRBM committee says, sir, you cannot go beyond 3%. You have to reduce your expenditure. ठीक है? Government says, fine, I will not construct this oil field. I will not explore this oil field. My 1% FD is reduced. This comes to 3%. It gets passed in the budget. Yes or no? Tell me. Yes or no? It gets passed in the budget. 3% is allowed as per FRBM. It gets passed in the budget. Government phones ONGC. Government calls ONGC and tells, you borrow from the market 1%, 50,000 crores. You borrow from the market. This 3% is borrowed by government, yes or no? Internally or externally? We saw that 3% fiscal deficit can be borrowed internally or can be borrowed externally. Barabar? But since government was not allowed to borrow 4%, it borrowed 3%. And that 1%, it told ONGC, since it is the owner, it told ONGC, you borrow separately. Which means government is going in the bank, ONGC is also coming from the bank. But ultimately it is owned by government only. Samjha? You know, when there are queues, we ask our friend to stand in the queue and then we also go there. Okay? So, similarly, government was not directly allowed to borrow 4%, but indirectly, this is nothing but government controlled only. Okay? So, this 50,000, SBI will consider ONGC as a separate customer and will give 50,000 to ONGC, and then government will vote on the decision. Since it is already holding majority of the share, government will decide that ONGC should open up a new oil field. Samjha? Is same goal achieved? Yes. Via different means. Government पे ये तो restriction government पे था, and this restriction was on the government, but this restriction is not on the government owned PSUs. Yes or no? Do you agree with what I am saying? So ultimately government got this 50,000 crores, not from here, but from here it got 50,000 crores. Yes or no? Right? This particular phenomena, now when we talk about government debt, do you think this 50,000 crore will appear in the government debt? Yes or no? It will not appear because it is the debt of ONGC, not of government. When we speak about government, we talk about central government, state government. Yes or no? Government has borrowed 3% of fiscal deficit. Remember, this goes into the total debt pool. Okay? Every year fiscal deficit goes in the total debt pool, but this is just 3%. This is outside of this debt, yes or no? But ultimately who is the owner? Government. Okay? This is just a mask, yes or no? So these kind of borrowings which are not included in government debt, but which are taken by government owned PSUs, these kinds of borrowings are called as, just look at the English. Yesterday we had seen this in the budget documents. I told you I'll explain it in the next lecture. This is called as extra budgetary borrowings, EBR. See, the name suggests it is extra budgetary, which means they don't appear in the budget and still they are borrowings. And this is again one of the hot topics in India, whether to regulate extra budgetary borrowings or not. Currently, there is no rule which regulates extra budgetary borrowings. There are recommendations, there are committee recommendations which say that you have to limit extra budgetary borrowings, but there is no definitive rule like FRBM which limits EBRs, extra budgetary borrowings. Samjha? This is very interesting concept. Extra budgetary borrowings. Right? So, you know, it is like in temples we get prasad and all. In temples, you know, when we are children, we want more prasad. We want more laddus, but they say you will get only one laddu. So you ask your friend also to come, and he gets another laddu, and then he would tell him, give it to me because you know I told you, I give you that. It is the same thing. So one laddu is taken by fiscal deficit, another laddu is taken by extra budgetary borrowings. So this R actually stands for resources. Technically it stands for resources, but EBR is written. This R stands for resources, extra budgetary resources. Nothing but borrowings. So all different connotations of the same word, same meaning. Extra budgetary resources or extra budgetary borrowings. EBR. Samjha? Interesting? Very interesting, extra budgetary borrowings. And also now you know the controversy with EBRs, whether to regulate. See, it is not easy to regulate. It is very easy to say ki nahi, we have to limit. But the point is ki what if ONGC wants to act on its own? What if ONGC is a profit making entity? What if that oil field is actually very sound investment? ONGC is very profit making. What if you want to increase your profits? Then you cannot limit your borrowing. So these are the economic considerations which are constraining extra budgetary borrowings. But this also forms as a pathway of fiscal inefficiency. Yes or no? If government wants to borrow more to hide its losses, it can go through this route. This route is always open, but government has committed itself to reduce extra budgetary resources, and it is on a path to reduce these things. You know how to solve this? I'll tell you how to solve this. So you can solve this. तो जो ये है ना ONGC, ठीक है, it is owned by government, no doubt, but appoint professional directors in ONGC. Appoint directors who can debate with the government कि sir, we are not in a position to borrow. You are our owners, but we are not in a position to borrow. ठीक है? So professionalization of management is very essential here. This is something very far-fetched I'm talking about. Far-fetched means in our study, we have just begun the study of fiscal policy. This is something which is very high level, but professionalization of management and appointing good quality directors, good quality chairpersons, they are very important for this thing. So that when government tries to put pressure on them to borrow, they will defend. See, ultimately it is the government which will win because the owner is government, but at least they will defend, and if they convince the government to defer the decision or cancel the decision, then that is also victory. No? So many considerations in economics, so many complicated things in economics, so many conflicting things in economics. This is, if it was very easy, if it was 1 + 1 2, then this would have been science and not economics. Science mein 1 + 1 is 2. Economics mein it is never 2. Social mein though it is never 2. In fact, 1 + 1 is 10 in social justice. Okay. What did we read about? Extra budgetary resources or extra budgetary borrowings. Okay. Actually, extra budgetary resources was not in my lecture plan, so I will just add this because I feel it is still relevant. Right. Next, what we have is, next there are some few things which are, I don't know. We saw budget. Did we see budget yesterday? Did we see budget in the last lecture? We saw how budgets were prepared, right? Now I tell you, take an example of solving prelims test. Test 1 you get 70 marks, test 2 you get 80 marks, test 3 you get 90 marks. How do you judge your performance? By comparing your marks with the previous test? Yes or no? Very simple. So when you make the budget also, you see na ki last year how much budget was there and this year how to increase. Let's say last week how much did you study? So if you're making this week's study plan, coming weeks, you will see last week how much did you study, how much were you able to achieve, were you able to overachieve, were you able to underachieve, which subject was left, and according to that you will make this year's study plan. Yes or no? Okay, this is the normal budgeting process, right? But what if you notice that the last week's plan was flawed? What if you notice that the last week's plan was based on other books and this week you want to read new books? So what you do is you completely scrap last week's plan. You completely scrap last week's plan and this week you start afresh, which means you don't carry any previous week's plan ka things. You start afresh, assuming this is the first week you are starting to study. You then make your budget without relying on past budgets. Are you getting this? Without relying on past budgets, you try to make new budget. Normally budgeting happens, you compare last year's budget. Last year how much did I study? Then accordingly I will make the plan this year. So last year if you studied for 100 hours and if you saw that it can be easily achieved, then this year you will make a budget for 110 hours. But there are some scenarios where you don't have last year's budget, or there are some scenarios where last year's budget is flawed. Then you just scrap it and you make new budget this year onwards. Okay? Which means there is no base for your budget. Yes or no? There is no base figure. Remember, we compare marks by comparing it with the base, the denominator. So last time you got 60 marks, this time you got 80 marks. How many increase? 20. 20 upon 60 is you got 1/3 increase in marks. Okay? So there is no base here. In our new budgeting system, there is no base here. Okay? So this kind of budget was started by Maharashtra government, officially. Then it was used by other governments also, where last year's budget has no effect on coming year's budget. इससे क्या होता है? There are two things. Last year's experience is also not counted here, but last year's inefficiencies or mistakes are also not counted here. You start afresh. Many times we think na कि I have made these notes but I don't like them. Let us make fresh notes. एकदम clean and all. So when you make a fresh budget without basing it on the last year's figures, when you make a fresh budget without basing it on last year's figures, without having any base, that budget is called as zero base budget. It is called as zero base budget, ZBB. It is called as zero base budget. This question can very easily come in your point number 3, government budgeting. What is zero base budgeting, where it is used for, and what are the drawbacks and what are the disadvantages of zero base budgeting? Okay, very easily. So I told you some of the disadvantages also. Ki last year's experience is not counted. Last year if you learned something, you cannot incorporate it in your current budget. And advantage is that you can start afresh. You can weed out the corruption, weed out the inefficiencies involved in the last year's budget making process, and that is why you can make a new budget. So let's say, for example, I'll give you another example. Let's say last week you studied history, science and internal security. Okay, fine, very good, you studied. You were able to study for, let's say, 50 hours. I'm just giving an example. You were able to study for 50 hours in the last week, which is fine, very good. This year you want to study geography, economy and international relations. Is last week's budget helpful to you? See, last week you studied separate subjects. You know that economy is weak. Economy is your weak area. So you want to focus on economy. So you will increase your hours. Yes or no? This week also you want to study the same subjects, history and all, then you will make changes. This chapter took a lot of time, right? So this week your priority has changed. It was history last week. This week your priority is economics. So you will make a fresh budget. You will not say ki 50 hours ke upar I will study 10 hours. You will notice that economics is very slow. You take a lot of time in reading economics. So you will make a budget for 70 hours. Okay, not basing it on last week's budget. Hence this budget. This week your priority has changed. Yes or no? So when do you use zero based budgeting? When your priority also changes. I'll give you government example. In the COVID time, the focus of the government was social sector schemes. Let's say after 2 years after COVID, the focus would be on infrastructure development. So it cannot use the budget used for social sector for helping to make the budget for infra development. Yes or no? Because the priority is different. The nature of expenses are different. The amount of expenses are different. So it has to start from scratch. In infra, how much would be required? Roads, how much would be required? In trains, railways, how much is required? So therefore, this budget is used when your priorities change. If your priorities are same, Manrega you are running for so many years, then you can base it on last year's figures. So last year Manrega had got an allocation of 1,48,000 crores. This year also you have to give priority to Manrega. So this year you will increase it to 1,60,000 crores. right? But you want to introduce a new scheme, you don't have any prior experience, or you want to change the priority from Manrega to, let's say, PM Kisan scheme. So you will make your budget afresh. Hence, when your priority changes, you use this budget, and hence this budget is also called as priority based budget. It is also called as priority based budget. Trust me, if you write these words in your answer, now you will get very high marks. Priority based budget, or this is also known as priority based budgeting. Samjha? Very easy to understand. Is it cool? Yes, we learned about sovereign debt crisis, we learned about zero-based budget, we learned about priority-based budgeting, we learned about the debt economics, why internal external debt is required, we learned about currency risk, we learned about Masala Bonds, we learned about green bonds, right? We learned so many things in this chapter. Okay? Now I will tell you one very funny thing. Okay? There are two very funny concepts which I like. So, tell me one simple thing. You are earning 10,000 rupees per month. Done? Do you know in India we follow a tax system where as your income increases, your tax also increases. In income tax, if you are earning, let's say, up to 10,000 rupees, your tax is 5%. If you are earning above 10,000 rupees, your tax is 6%. ऐसा होता है. In India, income tax increases, income tax are not indirect taxes. Direct taxes में income tax increases as your income also increases. Why is it required? Because rich people are able to pay more taxes, and someone who is earning less, let us put less burden on it. Okay? So let's say someone is earning 10,000, we are taking tax at 5%. Someone is earning 2 lakh rupees, we are taking tax at 10%. Okay? Simple. Please notice that the absolute amount, even if we tax him at 5%, the absolute amount would be much bigger than him because iska base is small. Okay? He is facing a burden of 5% tax. He is also facing a burden of 5% tax. Yes or no? Absolute amount is bigger because your marks are also bigger, na? But we are increasing the burden on this by saying ki 5 nahi 10 hai. Burden is also increasing now. Do you notice the difference? 5% of 10,000 is 500 rupees. This is the tax which he will pay. Okay? 5% of 2 lakh rupees is 10,000 rupees. 5%. Na? This is the tax he will pay. Very important for tax chapter when we will study what is the burden of this guy. What is the burden on this guy? How much is the burden on this guy? If you are saying 500 rupees, you are wrong. The burden is 5%. How much is the burden on this guy? If you are saying 10,000, you are wrong. Burden is again 5%. Keep this in mind for the tax chapter. Here burden is 5%. Here also burden is 5%. Yes or no? Yes or no? So we are not taxing him greater. We are not taxing him at a higher rate. See, simple thing hai. It is very simple. Bodybuilders require more calories to maintain their weight. Yes or no? Slim people require less calories to maintain their weight. Yes or no? The end criteria is maintaining the current weight. So here you are maintaining the current burden. 5%? 5%. Now he requires 10,000 to maintain 5%. He requires only 500 to maintain 5%. Yes or no? But in India, we increase the burden as the income increases. Which means what? We do it as 10%. Samjha? Which means he will have to pay a tax of not 10,000 but 20,000 rupees. Here the burden has increased from 5% to 10%. Did you understand this? Yes or no? This is maths. Please go back to your roots of maths. See, the burden here is not, this is the actual amount which is to be paid by him. On income amount of 10,000, he will pay 500 tax because 5%. On income amount of 2 lakh rupees, he will pay 10,000 tax because 5%. But in India, we tax rich people more. By what do I mean by more? Not this more. This will be more now because this is more. But we tax them more by increasing the percentage. So instead of 10,000, you will have to pay 20,000. See, he is paying only 500, he is paying 20,000. Okay? This is what is increasing burden of taxation. Right? Chalo. Continuing this example, you earn 10,000 rupees. Okay? You are taxed at 5%. How much is your tax? 500 rupees. 500, no? How much can you spend now? 9,500 rupees. 9,500 rupees you can spend. Yes or no? What will you buy? You will buy things or you will invest, which means you can do C plus I. Barabar? Which means your GDP will increase by 9,500 rupees. Yes or no? Because you are spending it. Very good. Right? If you are spending it, can I say demand is increasing because you are buying things? When demand increases, what happens? Price also increases. Assuming supply is fairly constant, if more and more people go to the bank to demand money, bank will increase its price. If more and more people go to mango seller to buy mango, he will increase his price. Yes or no? Do you agree or is it some confusion? Okay? So when more and more people start buying things, let's say he buys a new phone, some other person also buys a new phone, that price of phone will increase. So can I say this somehow results in increase in prices? Yes or no? Yes, it does. Can I say eventually it will lead to inflation? Yes or no? Eventually. Yes or no? Eventually it will lead to inflation, correct? We'll continue this example in our tax chapter also. This is a transition phase. So we are almost done with fiscal policy discussion. We are transitioning into taxation phase, but I am just introducing tax now. Okay? So far so good. So I can say that the more he spends, the more inflation happens, the more prices increase. If government increases this to 10%, what will happen? This will reduce, this will reduce, this will reduce, this will reduce. Yes or no? Economy will again start coming down. Yes or no? Very simple. Now, he got a promotion. Chalo, he got a promotion. How much promotion did he get? His salary was doubled. Suppose his salary was doubled. Okay? 5% is the tax. How much is the tax? 1,000 rupees. How much is he spending now? 20,000 minus 1,000. He is spending 19,000. Iska double. Because salary has doubled, tax has remained same. Yes or no? He is spending 19,000. Yes or no? Do you agree with this? Yes. I also told you that more your salary increases, more burden you have of tax. Yes or no? So here tax rate will not be 5%. He is earning 20,000 now, but due to our tax policies, due to automatically the way our tax structure is given, let's say he has to pay tax of 10%. Suppose, for simplicity, I am assuming round figures. Government has not done anything. Government has not increased tax. This is written in the law only. If agar your salary is up to 10,000, 5%. More than 10,000 up to 20,000, 10%. Now how much will be paid to the government as tax? Kitna hoga? 2,000. How much will he remain in the economy? 18,000, which he can spend. How much will lead to increase in prices, increase in inflation? This will contribute towards this. Compared to 19,000, 18,000 is only happening. Yes or no? Do you agree that automatically this is happening? No, he is not doing anything. He just got a promotion. But he is now under more burden to pay tax. Government is not doing anything because the law, like the acts have been set, the rates have been set. They change every year according to the budget. But government is actively not doing anything. Oh, you got a promotion, pay more tax. Aisa nahi hai. ठीक है? This is something called automatic. This is happening automatically. So can I say कि when this happened, economy was going up. When this happened, economy और बहुत हो गया. But due to this action, economy was slowed down. Yes or no? Because lesser, see, I told you, spending is fuel. Lesser fuel is going now. This is going to government. Compared to 19,000, 18,000 is lesser fuel. Yes or no? It is happening automatically. Okay? Automatically your economy is stabilizing. Yes or no? Do you agree with this? Automatically, government doesn't have to intervene every time now. When it was going, instead of going very high, it has now stabilized, yes or no? These kind of interventions which happen automatically, which stabilize the economy automatically, these kind of interventions. Ulta example ले लो, if his income falls below 1000, okay, there are few schemes which support poor people, which give 500 rupees in bank account of everyone, okay. So if he is earning less than 1000, he will not be able to contribute or he will not be able to spend. If government is giving him some extra money, automatically, if you are earning less than 1000 rupees, automatically you are able to get, let's say, 500 rupees, 400 rupees automatically. Then he will be able to contribute. So in this case, if government intervention, like the scheme was not there, economy was falling, but now because of that government automatic intervention, economy has stabilized and again it will go up, yes or no? So these kind of interventions which happen automatically, which do not require day-to-day action by the government, they happen automatically but do not require day-to-day action by the government, these are known as automatic stabilizers. These are known as automatic stabilizers. They stabilize the economy automatically. If it is going up, then they will remove the purchasing power. If it will go down, then they will include the or inject the purchasing power in the economy. Did you understand this? Income tax is one example of an automatic stabilizer because it automatically increases more burden, or it increases the burden on the taxpayer and it results in lesser flow going to the economy. Do you agree with this? Pay attention here. Economy was going like this, but due to automatic stabilizer, economy has stabilized. Yes or no? Okay? He was flying very high. He got double salary. He was very happy that he will be able to buy new things now. But government said, not so soon. I have doubled your tax also, or I have increased your tax also. Okay? So can I say that the government policy is dragging him down? Can I say the government policy is dragging his purchasing power down? Yes or no? He would have been left with 19,000 in his pocket, but now he is left with only 18,000. So these automatic stabilizers, or they work both positively or negatively. We saw both examples. They work both positively or negatively. But now we are talking about the negative example. It is pulling him down. Yes or no? It is pulling him down. So these kind of stabilizers which pull down when your tax bracket has increased. See, earlier you were in 5%, you were spending 9,500, 500 went to government. Now you are giving 19,000, you have in your pocket, 1,000 you are giving to government. But because of tax policies, what has happened? You now have to pay 2,000 to the government and only 18,000 you have in your pocket. Okay? Government policy is dragging you down. Government policy is dragging you down. So when this phenomena happens, when due to your increase in income, when your purchasing power reduces. See, is it not something very contradictory? You call up your home and say, I have got double salary, but also you call up your home and say, earlier I used to spend 9,500, but now I am not able to spend double. Now I am able to spend only less than double. Okay? So this kind of intervention is called as, very important, fiscal drag. This is known as fiscal drag. D-R-A-G, drag. Magic. Is it clear? Fiscal drag. It is dragging you down. Okay? Fiscal drag, actions by the fiscal policy or actions in the fiscal policy which result in dragging your consumption power down, which results in dragging your purchasing power down, which results in dragging the prices down, because if you are not able to spend more, your prices would reduce, and because you are fueling less demand, your prices would stabilize, is known as fiscal drag. Fiscal drag is a part of automatic stabilizer. It stabilizes automatically. Do you know what are subsidies? Do you know what are subsidies? Concessions given by government. Okay? You know, government gives you a lot of concessions in income tax also. Government gives you a lot of relaxations, lot of concessions, lot of discounts also in income tax. Okay, right? So let us say today you are living a very comfortable life. You are living a very luxurious life. You know, you have domestic help to bring you juice in the morning. You have domestic help to wash your clothes. You have domestic help to drive you around. You have a driver, you have a chauffeur with you, you have an escort with you who will, who will come with you everywhere you need. You can call up anyone and you can ask for help. Your parents are very rich. You live a very, very, very upscale and comfortable life. Okay? You are comfortable, right? So let us imagine for a while that you wake up, you get juice, then you brush and you have a big tub, and you have a big, what we say, penthouse on the 29th or 30th floor of a high-rise building. Then you have a lot of servants for you who are working. Actually, the word servant is wrong, but you have a lot of help, to help you. You have a lot of cars, you have drivers to drive you around. All of that is very nicely going. Your parents wear silk clothes, your parents wear golden clothes, you eat in golden cutlery, you are very rich, you don't have a care in the world. Okay? You are very happy. You have a nice boyfriend, you have a nice girlfriend who is also very rich, right? Very good, everything is going. Suddenly, then, you go down, you go to speak to your mother and father, and then they are sitting there, they are having that breakfast, and then they are saying ki, come sit and have breakfast with us. You go on the table and you say ki, where is my plate? Then they give you a steel plate. Then you say ki, why you all are eating in silver and golden plates? Why am I eating in steel plate? And your mother looks at you very puzzlingly. What are you talking about? Then you realize ki this was all a dream. Then you realize you have just woken up and your mother is trying to wake you up. You are nowhere in that 29th floor. You are normal in one house you are living. Your parents are also normal. You don't have those many domestic helps. It was just a dream. Okay? You are normal. You have to struggle to make your daily ends meet, and your income is also not that much. You are a normal person. Okay? Your dream. Did it crash? Yes or no? Did it crash? Similarly, in economics, when government gives you a lot of subsidies, when government gives you a lot of concessions, discounts, exemptions in income tax, you are living king's dream. Okay? You are enjoying because you have more purchasing power with you. Yes or no? When government stops these discussions, when government withdraws these, discounts, when government withdraws these exemptions, when government withdraws these schemes or these facilities which are extended by you, what do you think will happen to your financial dreams? They will come crashing down, yes or no? Because you had a lot of hopes from the government, but let's say tomorrow government stopped exemption. Let's say today government is giving 5,000 rupees tax exemption to students. So if you are studying also and if you are earning, you have to pay 5,000 less tax. You are enjoying. Tomorrow government says ki that exemption is closed or that exemption is not available. What will happen to your financial dreams? They will come crashing down. So the phenomena where government withdraws SOPs given to people, the phenomena where government withdraws concessions, facilities, be it subsidies, be it anything, discounts, exemptions given to the people, which hurt the people. Okay, which hurt the people, they are known as, such a situation, such a phenomena is called as a fiscal cliff. Do you understand why cliff? Because government had earlier taken you on the top of a mountain and then government pushed you from the mountain. Okay, by what did government do to push you from the mountain? Government withdrew the exemptions, government withdrew the SOPs and discounts which were given to you, which were provided to you. Government just removed all of those things, and now government is saying, now enjoy, you are a normal person. Okay? Again, I come back to that movie, Fir Hera Fairy. In the beginning, they are living in that golden mansion, and he says, Mera golden chashma and all. And then when they invest in the money Ponzi scheme, 25 din mein paisa double, and then they become poor, and then he says, Mera golden chashma bhi gaya, and all of those things. Okay? That is a cliff. Similarly, when government does these things with you, it is a fiscal cliff. Did you understand this? It is a fiscal cliff. Very easy. It's not tough at all, है ना? ठीक है? Next. Now what happens is, when you are, we have learned so much about fiscal policy now. What are capital receipts, capital expenditure, everything we have done. Okay? There is no problem. We have done a lot of things now. So now what we do is, we transition into the chapter of taxation. Let us focus on fiscal policy first. What were the different kinds of this thing? There was revenue receipt, there was revenue expenditure, there was capital receipts, capital expenditure. Okay? Capital expenditure is covered in our point number 9 and point number 10, which is your infrastructure, energy, ports, roads, airports, railways, etc. Capital receipts, there are two parts. What is capital receipts? Ka two parts: debt creating capital receipts and non-debt creating capital receipts. What is non-debt creating capital receipt? What is the biggest example? Disinvestment is the non-debt creating capital receipt, which means selling of stake, which means you will privatize the organizations. Yes or no? What is debt creating capital receipt? You borrow, okay, which is all about debt. Did we do a lot of discussion on debt? Yes, we did. Right? We are going to do some discussion in monetary policy chapter also. Okay. When we come to revenue expenditure, we have subsidies, we have defense, we have salary, interest payments. Okay. Defense will be covered in your internal security. Subsidies will be majorly covered in your agricultural part, which we are going to do. Salary, no need to cover it. It is very normal. It is nominal. Now coming to revenue receipts. What are the biggest parts of revenue receipts? Taxes and non-tax revenues. Okay. And grants also. Okay. Grants, very important. Grants come here also. Grants come here also. Okay. Now these grants, I hope you know by receipts, which means grants received, and this is grants given. These grants we will be covering in a separate lecture altogether, where I will explain how Finance Commission decides how much grants are to be given. So how much grants, how many grants, how much grants, what is the quantum of grants to be given, and what is the quantum of grants to be received, all of that is discussed or decided by the Finance Commission. Not decided, but recommended by the Finance Commission. And then government takes action accordingly. Okay? So far very good. So we'll cover this in a separate chapter altogether. Okay? I don't want to go too much into depth, because then it becomes very monotonous or very boring. Hence I will do taxation chapter, then we'll come back here. Okay? Now non-tax. What is in non-tax revenue? User charges, fees and all. These are all very random and small things. We come to tax chapter. Okay? We start with this chapter in a while. In like 5 minutes we start with this chapter, but I hope you are able to see the bigger picture now. Okay? उससे पहले we'll speak something about disinvestment. We have spoken about disinvestment. What is strategic disinvestment? What is non-strategic disinvestment? ठीक है? I want to show you a part of budget. I want to show you a part of budget speech directly, which will speak about disinvestment. ठीक है? So let us see budget speech. Live budget speech कहाँ गया? It is not there here. Budget speech is not there, so we'll have to download it. Right? Where is budget speech? Finance Minister speech. This is the budget speech. I told you, 60-65 page ka hota hai. You have to read all of that. Right? Wait a minute. I'll just search. Is there an option for search here? It opened in Chrome only. Funny. कहाँ है सर्च? See this. Disinvestment and strategic sale. Did we speak about these things? See this. In spite of COVID-19, we have kept working towards strategic disinvestment. I hope by now you know what is strategic. A number of transactions, namely BPCL, Air India, Shipping, Container, IDBI, BEML, others would be completed in 21-22, which means stake of government would be sold from these entities, Air India and all of that. Other than IDBI Bank, we propose to take up privatization of 2 public sector banks and 1 general insurance companies, right? In Atmanirbhar package, I had announced that we will come out with the policy of strategic disinvestment of public sector enterprises. I am happy to inform that the government has approved the said policy. The policy provides a clear roadmap for disinvestment in all non-strategic and strategic sectors. We have kept 4 areas that are strategic sectors, where bare minimum public sector enterprises, central public sector enterprises will be maintained and rest would be privatized. In the remaining sectors, all CPSEs would be privatized. This is the main privatization or disinvestment policy of the government. In non-core or non-strategic sectors, all of them would be privatized. In strategic sectors, bare minimum presence of government would be there. Other than that, everything would be privatized. Do you understand this? See this. Non-debt creating capital receipt, disinvestment target of 1,75,000 crores. Okay? We'll read this. This is budget, huh? This is budget live. We are doing live reading. Highlights of disinvestment or strategic disinvestment policy. See, they have also mentioned the terms, because in some cases it is strategic, in some cases it is normal. Minimizing presence of central government public sector enterprises, including financial institutions, and creating new investment space for private sector. Do you agree with this? When government will remove itself, who will buy those shares? Private people. So creating space for private sector, right? See this. What they are trying to say is, they want to boost private sector Okay? Post disinvestment, economic growth of central public sector enterprises, financial institutions will be through infusion of private capital, private technology, best management practices. The private owner, the new person who will come, if Reliance buys that ONGC, then he will bring in his money, he will bring in his new technology, he will bring in his management practices, best culture, best people, will contribute to economic growth and new jobs. Which means they are saying the government has not been able to do it because of various social obligations. So there are some companies, or majority of the companies, will give it to private people so that they will be able to do this. Disinvestment proceeds to finance. Where will the money go? To finance various social sector and developmental programs of the government. Do you agree with this? Do you understand this? Now, how good is this investment policy or how bad is this investment policy? That is a matter of debate. Because, is the government washing off its hands from social obligations, or is the government just running behind money and all of that? Those are different policy questions or different debate questions. Next, we go ahead. See this. See the policy features. What is the official disinvestment policy? Policy covers existing. So I will send the screenshot of this. I will attach it in the PPT itself along with other screens, and I will send this, because this is important. Even though it is a part of last year's budget, it is very, very, very important, on imperative on your part to know all of these things. So let us read this. Policy covers existing CPSEs, public sector banks, and public sector insurance companies. 1. Second, various sectors will be classified as strategic and non-strategic. Second step. Third, the strategic sector classified as, this should be by heart. In any way you want to do, please by heart these things. The strategic sectors classified are atomic energy, space, defense, transport and telecommunications, power, petroleum, coal and other minerals, banking, insurance and financial services. So I will give you 2 minutes to by heart these 4 points. Please by heart them. Atomic energy, space and defense are interrelated. Transport, telecommunications, treaty, power, petroleum, coal and other minerals. The energy sector is here and is the financial sector, banking, insurance and financial services. In strategic sectors, there will be a bare minimum presence of public sector enterprises. Bare minimum. Notice the words they are using. The remaining CPSEs in the strategic sector will be privatized or merged or subsidiarized with other CPSEs or closed. Sir, what do we mean by subsidiarized? Which means they will be sold to other public sector enterprises with other these things or closed. In non-strategic sectors, they will be either privatized, which means strategically disinvested, or otherwise they shall be closed. Khatam. Shop, close the shop. Okay? Done? Did you understand this disinvestment part of it? Coming back to this. Did you understand disinvestment policy, privatization policy? I will send the screenshots along with it. So don't worry. Right? Now we come to tax. Very, very important. Taxation. We start with taxation. We have finished the fiscal policy chapter. Please revise them. Very important. Very imperative. It is highly imperative to start with tax. Okay? Now, what is tax? Very important question. What is tax? What is tax? What does the meaning, what does the word tax mean? Tax means nothing but something taken away from you for given to the government. That is a tax. Tax is like a penalty, you can say in normal English. Penalty, or you tax something, which means government takes some part of it. So tax is an income, or tax is anything out of which government takes some part of it. Now, why is the government taking money? Remember this chart. Why is the government taking money? Can I say government might use this here, or government might use this here? Yes or no? Yes or no? Can I say government might use this here? What is here? Subsidies. Are subsidies welfare function of the government? Are subsidies helping in social justice? Yes, they are. They are helping in social justice. Now see the funny thing here. Who is paying tax? Who are earning good. They are paying tax. Okay? Whom is government spending the money on? Who are not earning so good, who need help, who need subsidies. Yes or no? Government is giving employment under Manrega. It is giving wages to those people, daily wage laborers and all. So can I say government is doing nothing but taking money from comparatively better off to comparatively worse off? Can I say this? Yes or no? So the main function of government, or the main intention of government for implementing tax, the main logic or intent behind it is taxation helps in, see the words, see the words. Very important. If you use these words, there is nothing beyond this. Does tax help in redistribution of income? We saw this. See this. It goes from here to the government and then ultimately goes here or there. Okay? It helps in redistribution of income. This is a very important function of the government. Redistribution of income. Very, very, very important function of the government is redistribution of income. Okay? It takes money from those who are earning money and it gives money to those who are not able to earn money. Why? Because we have socialist goals also. Why? Because India is a mixed economy. We have social obligations. Yes or no? So taxation helps in redistribution of income. Taxation helps in redistribution of income. Taxation, can I say that some of tax income is also used for salaries. Some of tax income is also used for, might be used for capital expenditure also. Okay? So we also say it is used for ठीक है. Tax income is used for allocation of expenditure. Kitna, how much to spend where, depending on your income. If you are having a very high tax income, you can spend more. If you are having a very low tax income, then spend less. ठीक है. Right? Then, okay, so taxation is important. We got to know that taxation is very important. Now the question is ki what are the types of taxes? Very important distinction is what are the types of taxes. See, taxes are of various types. You might have heard two types. Okay, tax are of two types. One, what do you think? Barabar. Now we will spend some time on distinguishing between direct tax and distinguishing between indirect tax. Very important distinction is between direct and indirect. I will give you two keywords here. Before that, two examples. One, first example, you earn salary. Salary gets, salary, employee pays your salary, employer pays your salary. And what do you think, will the government take some amount of your salary in form of tax? Yes. Have you heard something called as income tax? Income tax is taken by the government from your salary. Okay, that is income tax. Who is paying income tax? Who is paying income tax? You are paying income tax. Out of whose pocket the tax is going? Your pocket the tax is going. Second example, you go to McDonald's and you go to buy a burger. You notice the bill, and on the bill what is written? GST is written. Is GST a tax? Yes. Is GST collected by the government? Yes. Okay. Who is paying tax? Who is supposed to pay GST to the government? Take the example of baker in mind. Who is supposed to pay tax? Who is supposed to pay GST to the government? Are you supposed to pay GST to the government, or is McDonald's supposed to pay GST to the government? Think and tell me. Whom will the government catch? Where will the government go? Will the government come to your house to collect GST, or will the government go to McDonald's to collect GST? What do you think? Government will go to McDonald's. So who is supposed to pay GST to the government? McDonald's. Is McDonald's paying out of his own pocket or out of your pocket? McDonald's is recovering from us. In our bill, GST is added and given. Okay? So I give you two words, two very critical words. First word is incidence. Okay? What is the meaning of incidence? Incidence means who has the responsibility of payment. Government will catch whose collar if tax is not paid. Government will go to whom to collect the tax. Okay? In our McDonald's example, incidence is on you or incidence is on McDonald's? Tell me. In our McDonald's wala example, incidence is on you or incidence is on McDonald's or you? Incidence is on McDonald's. Do you agree with this? Is it fairly easy to understand and comprehend? Incidence is on McDonald's. Simple thing. Whose collar will government catch if tax is not paid? Who is supposed to pay tax? Okay? Who is supposed to pay tax? McDonald's is supposed to pay tax. In the first example, in the first case, when we earned our salary, who is supposed to pay tax? We are supposed to pay tax. So in the first example, incidence is on us. In the first example, incidence is on us. In the second example, incidence is on McD. Do you agree with this? Is it fairly logical? In the first example, who is paying tax? Who is supposed to pay tax? We are supposed to pay tax. Who is ultimately paying tax? Whose pockets are burning when tax is being paid? Our own. We are only paying. So we are supposed to pay tax and we are only paying tax. Yes or no? What happens in the second case? Who is supposed to pay tax? McDonald's. Who is ultimately, whose pocket is being burned? Our pocket is being burned. McDonald's is just collecting from us and giving it to the government. Okay? McDonald's is saying incidence was on me. I took tax from him and I paid it to you. Who suffered ultimately in the second example? We. Who suffered ultimately in the first example? We. Barabar hai? I give you the second word. Second critical word here is this is the second critical word which we are talking about here. Burden. Are you understanding? Is it fairly simple? Now tell me, who is facing the burden in first case? We are facing the burden in first case. Who is facing the burden in second case? We are facing the burden in second case. Yes or no? Can I? Acha, what can you do? Can you avoid this responsibility? No. Can McDonald's avoid this responsibility? No. Incidents it cannot avoid. It cannot say, please collect from him. It cannot tell government collect from my customer. Government will say, you collect if you want. You pay me. Hai na? Government will catch McDonald's collar only. This cannot be shifted. Yes or no? McDonald's will not say, government please collect from him directly. Mere ko beech mein mat lao. Don't bring me in between. This is not what they can say. So can I say incidents cannot be shifted or passed on? Can I say that? Yes or no? Can incidents be passed on? Can responsibility be abdicated to someone else? Can responsibility be given? No. You cannot tell the government, don't collect tax from me, collect from my friend. Is it possible? No. Can McDonald's say, collect tax from my customer, don't collect from me? No. Incidents cannot be shifted. Incidents cannot be shifted. Is it fair? Is it right? What about burden? Think and tell me, what about burden? What about burden? See, burden is ultimately whose pockets are being burnt. Hai na? Burden is kiske pocket se money is coming out. Burden is nothing but who is ultimately paying. In the first case, can you ask your friend to pay? Yes, but he will again vasool it from you. He will not pay it for free. If he is paying it for free, then it is very good. But if he is paying your tax, it means that you have to repay him that money. So ultimately, whose pocket is burnt? Your only. Okay? Fairly simple. Government put incidents on whom to collect tax? McDonald's. It is McDonald's choice to collect it from us. Yes or no? Tomorrow if McDonald's decide ki I will not collect from my customers, I will pay from my behalf. Is it okay? Yes. Government doesn't care. See, government doesn't care. McDonald's is giving money from his own pocket or McDonald's is collecting money from us and giving it to government. Government doesn't care. Government bolta hai, I need money. I need my money. Government goes to McDonald's house and says ki I need my money. Now you kidnap someone and get the money, you murder someone and get the money, or you slog day night and get the money, I don't care. Okay? So banduk is on McDonald's, gun is on McDonald's, gun is on us in the first case. But ultimately who is suffering in the first case? We are only suffering. And who is suffering in the second case? McDonald's has to suffer, but it is pulling us in front. I am taking it from him. Are you agreeing? Are you following this? Okay? I am going very slow because it is the start of a chapter. I am going very, very slow. So can I say that initially burden was on us only. Initially burden was on McD. Initially burden was also on McDonald's. It was supposed to pay from his own pocket, but he thought ki let us take from customers. So can I say burden has shifted to us? Yes or no? So can incidents be ever shifted? Can incidents be shifted? Incidents can never be shifted. You cannot tell government go to his house. Government will come with gun on your house only. Okay? Now where you arrange your money from, that is your prerogative. Government doesn't care about that. Right? So can I say incidents can be shifted? Yes or no? Incidents cannot be shifted. Can I say burden can be shifted? Yes or no? Burden can be shifted. Right? Burden can be shifted. In this case, now if tomorrow McDonald's decide not to recover tax from us, then burden will also be McDonald's only. It will pay from its own pocket, which is fine, fair enough. Your tax, you pay. Okay? Here I told you, can you shift your burden to your friend? No, because your friend will demand money back. Here you cannot demand money back from McDonald's, is it? When you are paying money, when you are paying the bill to McDonald's, you cannot say, I have paid, give it to me back. Okay? So in some taxes, incidents can be, in some taxes, burden and incidents are on different people. In some taxes, burden on incidents are on same people. Yes or no? Do you agree with this? In this first scenario, burden and incidence is on us only. But in the second scenario, incidence is on McDonald's, burden is on us. So there are two parties involved in some taxes. There is only one party involved in this tax. Incidence can never be shifted, that we have established. Burden can be shifted, but only in some cases. Yes or no? In those cases where incidence and burden lie on the same person, in those cases where incidence and burden lie on the same person, in those cases where burden cannot be shifted, incidence so anyways cannot be shifted, but in those cases where incidence, burden lie on the same person, burden cannot be shifted, they are called as direct tax. They are called as direct taxes. So if someone asks you what are direct taxes, do not say income tax, corporation tax, wealth tax, those are examples. What do you mean by direct tax? It is when incidence and burden is on the same person and burden cannot be shifted. That is a direct tax. Okay? Every grain, each and every particle of concept we are trying to understand here. So this will all fall in place. It will all fall into picture when we move on with taxes. Okay? I hope you are writing these charts. If you are not writing, don't worry, I will give you this PPT. Right? So, in this case, can we say that burden is shifted in the second case? Can we say burden is shifted in the second case? Burden has come to us. So those taxes where there are two parties involved, those taxes where incidence so anyways cannot be shifted, but those taxes where burden shifts to someone else or burden can be shifted, it does not always shift, but burden can be shifted to someone else, are known as indirect taxes. See, these are direct, only one person involved. These are indirect because normally there are two persons involved. Even if he does not shift the burden, still this tax is indirect because there is an ability to shift the burden. Only when burden is shifted is not indirect tax. When there is an option to shift the burden, there is an indirect tax. So these are indirect taxes. Direct, indirect. Simple. So if anyone asks you what are indirect taxes, say that those taxes where burden on taxation can be shifted, can be, not is. It is not compulsory. Those taxes where burden of tax can be shifted to someone else, then it is known as indirect taxes. Or some other way of saying it is those taxes where the incidence and burden are on different persons. Is it not true? Here the incidence and burden are on different persons. So those taxes where incidence and burden are on different people, different persons, they are indirect taxes. Those taxes where the incidence and burden is on same person and cannot be shifted, burden cannot be shifted, incidence can anyways not be shifted, burden cannot be shifted, are known as direct taxes. Now bear in mind, this shifting is done by people. This shifting is not done by government. So sometimes there are some special scenarios which we don't need to know about, but just for information, there are some special scenarios where incidence is shifted by the government. Incidence is shifted by the government. There are some special scenarios. We don't need to get into that. Okay? For our normal understanding, UPSC level GS understanding, incidence cannot be shifted, burden can be shifted. Those taxes where incidence and burden are on the same person, there is only one person, they are direct taxes. Those taxes where incidence and burden are on different people, which means burden is shifted. See, initial burden is with McDonald's, but always remember, initial burden is also with McDonald's, but he has shifted it to us. Government will give GST receipt to McDonald's. Now that GST receipt, McDonald's is vasooling it from us, is taking it from us. And those are called as indirect taxes. Is it clear? Is it clear? The difference between direct and indirect tax, is it very, very, very crystal clear? Okay? Please, when you are writing about taxes, use these words: incidence, burden. These are special words. These are not normal, just any random word. These are special words where incidence and burden are separate things. So tell me, in indirect taxes, can the burden be shifted? Yes, burden can be shifted. In direct taxes, can the incidence be shifted? No. In indirect taxes, can the incidence be shifted? No. Incidence can never be shifted. Government can shift the incidence, that's a separate story. Burden can be shifted in indirect taxes, burden cannot be shifted in direct taxes. Do you agree with this? Do you, understand this? Every concept, every point should be very crystal clear. If you didn't understand, please ask me. If you didn't understand, you can watch the concept part again in the video, and you can message me anytime, right? Now, what are indirect taxes? Do we have some examples of indirect taxes? Do we have some examples of direct taxes? We are going to cover everything in the next lecture. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this lecture on fiscal policy. Fiscal policy was concluded. It was one of the biggest chapters which we'll do. We are into taxation now. Then we move on to probably more 8 lectures will go in monetary policy and banking. Both of them taken together. Monetary policy will take around 3 lectures. Banking will take around 4 lectures. So I'm roughly allocating 7 to 8 lectures to monetary policy and banking, and 1 lecture on money supply will also be there, right? Then we will also have some, not one but half a lecture on fiscal policy, financial, finance committee recommendations. Remember, I told you after taxation we'll come back to fiscal policy for a while, then we'll go to monetary policy. We are going to do that. Then in between we'll also be able, after monetary policy and before banking, we'll do inflation also in it. Okay? Then comes balance of payments, then comes WTO, then comes World Bank, then comes IMF. So many chapters are remaining. Economics is huge, and then we conclude economics ka first point, then we move on to 8th point, then 2nd point, and then we go to agriculture. But the only thing you need to know is that everything would not take 4-5 lectures. Some things would be covered in half lecture altogether. Okay? Chapters like poverty and all, they are not more than 1 hour or 1.5 hours. Poverty is very easy. Poverty 1.5 hours, everything done. Right? So these are the biggest chapters. I am trying to cover the biggest chunk initially, and then we will enjoy our ride. But the key thing to know is one economics answer should have all aspects of the chapters. It will have points on taxation, it will have points on fiscal policy, it will have points on monetary policy, it will have points on banking. Okay? Right? So keep reading, keep studying. Very important note is that you can read government budgeting chapter from your NCERT on macroeconomics. I hope you will be able to understand, because we have completed fiscal policy, so you can read that chapter. So I would say except money and banking and external sector, except money and banking and open economy. There is a chapter called as open economy also. Okay? So except money and banking and open economy, you can read all the chapters of the NCERT. See, we can see it here also. Just I'll show you. If you are not able to get it, I'll show you. Macro, M-A-C-R-O, macro. Introduction though you can read. 2nd chapter, national income accounting, we have already done. This is about GDP and all. 3rd chapter, money and banking you should not read, because we will do it after monetary policy chapter. So 3rd you cannot do. 1, 2 you can do. 4th chapter, determination of income and employment, you have to skip this chapter because this is very technical chapter. Just skip this chapter. 4th chapter completely skip. Government budget and the economy you should do. This is the chapter which we have done, fiscal policy. And 6th chapter is open economy, I think. Open economy. This also you cannot read now because we will be doing balance of payments chapter. After that you will be able to read this. So 4th you can fairly skip. Sixth you don't have to read, third you don't have to read, rest others you can read and you can get it done. If you have a reference book with you, please cover these chapters. 2 chapters we have done. First introductory chapter on national income chapter and second on fiscal policy. Please read these 2 chapters together so that your study and the class is in sync with each other. Okay, if you find some concepts which you don't understand, you can always contact me. Right? We'll end this lecture here. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon with the next or the continuing part of taxation. Thank you.